Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something I bet you've thought about if you're learning a language.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, this big question. Can you really get fluent without actually living in a country where people speak it?
The immersion question.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the classic advice, isn't it? You have to go live there.
Exactly. This is a common belief.
Hmm.
But we want to unpack if that really holds up today, especially with, everything online.
All the tech and resources available now, it's definitely changed the game.
For sure. And we've got some great stuff to draw on from a discussion over at the EDP English Dialogue podcast.
Oh, yeah. Who was talking?
Mike and Emma, they really got into this exact topic.
Okay, cool.
So our mission today is to kind of get past those surface assumptions. Look at the real arguments for and against immersion being the only way.
And figure out what really works for language learning wherever you are.
Right. So maybe first things first, what do we even mean by fluent? Because that word gets thrown around a lot.
Good point. The Source podcast, Mike and Emma, they define it pretty well. It's not just knowing words and grammar.
No, it's more than that. They said it's about speaking, reading, writing, understanding, all pretty effortlessly and accurately.
Effortlessly, yeah. But also there's like another layer, right? It goes deeper.
Totally. They mentioned understanding the cultural nuances, those little idioms.
And even thinking the language, that's a big one.
Yeah, getting to that point where it's automatic. So it's a really comprehensive skill.
Definitely. Okay, so let's tackle immersion head on. Why is it seen as like the gold standard? What's the core argument?
Well, the main idea, and Mike and Emma hit this hard, is just being surrounded by it. Constant.
Right. Every single day in real life.
It forces you to use the language actively. It creates this intense exposure that's hard to replicate otherwise.
They used examples, didn't they? Like ordering food.
Yeah, or asking for directions when you're lost. Those situations where you have to communicate, maybe stumble a bit, but you figure it out.
And it's often unpredictable. You can't just prepare a script for every single interaction.
Exactly. And that need, that constant pressure, it really speeds things up.
You're not just studying passively from a book. You're like actively using it to survive almost.
Which helps you internalize it,
Yeah.
right? Much deeper than just memorizing stuff.
Yeah, it becomes part of you. And they also talked about the culture connection, which is huge.
How does that work? How does being in the culture help the language part specifically?
Well, Mike and Emma pointed out how language and culture are just, woven together. So seeing cultural practices firsthand gives you context. You understand why people say things a certain way.
Ah, okay. Like the unspoken rules behind the words.
Precisely. They mention understanding, say, the meaning behind a certain phrase or even a gesture. It's not just the dictionary definition.
It's the cultural weight it carries.
Exactly. And that makes your communication feel more, well, authentic, real.
Makes sense. But, and this is the big but, the source discussion then kind of shifts.
Right. To the idea that maybe living abroad isn't the only path.
Yeah, and this is where technology really enters the picture, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Mike and Emma discussed how actually lots of people do get fluent without moving.
Because the tools are just everywhere now.
What kind of tools did they mention?
Oh, the usual suspects. Language apps, Duolingo, Babbel came up.
Okay.
Online courses, language exchange platforms where you talk to native speakers.
Virtual reality even. People are using that now.
Yeah. So these things offer structured learning, practice, and that crucial connection to native speakers. All from your sofa, basically.
Yeah. But it's not just about having the apps, is it? It takes more than that.
Oh, definitely not. The source stressed that a consistent effort, personal dedication, that's absolutely key wherever you are.
Right. The successful learners, the polyglots they mentioned, they have disciplined habits. Like regular study schedules, making time for conversation practice, even if it's online, and really diving into media books, movies, podcasts, music, whatever you enjoy, but in the target language.
So it's a very active kind of multi-channel approach.
Totally. You're building your own immersion bubble in a way.
And online communities help with that too, right? Connecting people.
That's a really important point they made. These online groups, virtual exchanges, they bridge that gap.
Get real practice, cultural insights too.
Exactly. And there's flexibility. That's a big plus for online learning.
You mean fitting it around your life?
Yeah. Your schedule, your learning style, you can tailor it, which for many people is just more effective.
Plus the sheer volume of stuff online now. Authentic material.
It's incredible. News articles, academic papers, like you said.
Movies, shows, social media. It's endless.
Right. And that constant input reinforces everything and, crucially, keeps you interested, keeps you engaged.
Like having a massive library you can access anytime.
Pretty much. But it's not all smooth sailing if you're not immersed.
Right.
The source acknowledged the challenges too.
Yeah, definitely. What was the main one they highlighted?
Well, the big one is missing out on that spontaneous real-life practice. The unpredictable stuff.
Like those awkward moments ordering coffee we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. When you're actually there, you're constantly in those diverse, sometimes tricky situations.
And that really sharpens your conversational skills, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Helps you pick up slang.
And read nonverbal cues, body language, all that stuff that's part of communication.
It's just a different kind of practice than, say, a structured online lesson.
Much different. And developing that ability to think quickly, adapt on the fly, that can be harder in a controlled setting.
You're not getting thrown into the deep end quite as often.
Precisely. And there's also the motivation factor they touched on.
How so?
Well, if you're living there, there's often this immediate, pressing need to communicate to get by.
Right. You need groceries, you need to ask for help.
That need can be a really powerful driver. Keeping that same intensity going when you're learning at home, sometimes that's tougher.
Yeah, I can see that. So, if you are learning without moving, what strategies did Mike and Emma suggest to, overcome these things? Stay motivated.
Okay, so they talked about setting really clear goals, achievable ones.
Makes sense. Break it down.
And having a consistent routine, making it a habit.
Crucial.
Also, finding ways to make it enjoyable, connecting it to your hobbies, your interests. If you love cooking, find recipes in the language. If you love games, play them in the language.
Make it relevant to your life, not just abstract study.
Exactly. That's key for sticking with it long term.
And what about the social side, if you're not surrounded by speakers?
You have to actively seek it out. They suggested using those online exchange platforms seriously.
Like scheduling regular calls.
Yeah, and looking for local meetups, too, if they exist in your area. Language groups.
Building those personal connections makes a difference.
A huge difference. It makes it real, gives you practice partners, friends even.
And you can still engage with the culture, even from afar.
Absolutely. They stress that. Watch the movies, listen to the music, take virtual tours of museums online.
Ah, yeah. There's so much cultural content available now.
It provides context, insights. It deepens your understanding beyond just the grammar rules.
Okay, so pulling all this together then, what's the main takeaway from Mike and Emma's discussion on this, the bottom line?
I think the core message was that, look, both paths, physical immersion and really dedicated self-study, they have pros and cons.
Neither one is universally better.
Right. The best approach really depends on the individual, your situation, your learning style, your goals.
And this is the encouraging part, fluency is achievable without packing your bags and moving.
Definitely. If you have the right tools, the right strategies, and crucially, the dedication.
You have to be committed.
You do. It's about consciously, intentionally creating your own rich learning environment.
Yeah.
Mimicking the benefits of immersion as much as you can right where you are.
So, wrapping up our deep dive today.
Yeah.
Yes, living in the country can give you a massive boost, no doubt.
A significant advantage for sure.
But it's clearly not the only way anymore. Not in our connected world.
That's the key. The most important thing really is finding what clicks for you, what methods keep you engaged and moving forward.
And then committing to it, sticking with the journey.
Exactly.
So for you listening, if moving abroad isn't feasible or isn't planned, don't feel like fluency is out of reach.
Not at all.
Look at all the resources available now. Embrace them. Be consistent. Find ways to immerse yourself virtually or locally.
Seek out those connections with speakers. Make it social.
Yeah, because ultimately fluency isn't really a destination you arrive at, is it?
No, it's more like a continuous journey. Constant learning, constant growth.
And it's a journey you can absolutely succeed on through various paths,
Yeah.
as long as you bring that passion and dedication, no matter your zip code.
Well said. It's achievable.